Toyota Soarers are great cars. If you want yours to go fast, you've probably considered weight reduction. And that'd be a smart move because these things are built like tanks. I mean, they're so heavy, so anything you can do to save a bit of weight out of these things is going to drastically help their performance. If you're anything like me, you've looked at this thing up here and thought, how heavy is that sunroof? Is it actually worth all the effort of pulling it out to fill that hole to save a bit of weight? So in today's video, we pull this one out of my spare car and find out just how heavy it is and is it worth it. So let's do it. So let's actually take a look and see what we've got to remove. My car, I've already actually got the trim pieces removed around the windows and the A-pillars and stuff. You'd obviously have to do that if you haven't done it yet. But other than that, we've got a hood lining to remove. We've got this slides part of the hood lining by the look of it. Interior lights, visors, that kind of thing. So let's just start by stripping them out. So here we've got a little pile of goodies, just mirrors, the center little flip down mirror, the light assembly, piece of cake to remove off, just screwdrivers to pop all that out. And it's basically just giving us a little bit of a view to the start of the mechanism and stuff in here. So our next step is to go along and start removing all of these little clips to hold the roof lining in. So let's rip all them out. So as easy as that, just 6 of these little clips. I just used one of these clip remover tools. If you don't have one, you'd probably get them out easy enough with a flathead screwdriver. But if you're doing stuff like this fairly often, this thing has come in handy so often for me that definitely worth getting, so I recommend. So let's start ripping this thing down and pulling it out. And just like that, we've got our hood lining out. Just a hot tip, make sure you're gentle with this thing when you get it out, because you've got to remember it's about 30 years old. I did hear mine creak a couple of times, like potentially had little cracks and stuff happening in the cardboard, but I'm not throwing this thing back in, so I'm not too worried about it. But it's pretty nifty to see it's actually held on by like Velcro stuff to the sunroof itself in the center, which is pretty cool. But other than that, you've just got 4 little clips out the back, so if you care about it, make sure you take care when pulling that thing out. So now with that out, let's go have a look at the inside. So now we've got a clear view of the sunroof itself. And this thing is massive, eh? You can see all the little Velcro bits that I was telling you about that help hold the roof lining down. Some of mine stayed on there. But it looks like we've just got a bunch of 10mm bolts, well 6mm bolts, 10mm heads to remove from around the outside. We've got some drain tubes in the corners here, so these little hoses here that run down to drip out the corners of the car. So we'll pull all that stuff out, start ripping some bolts out, and get this thing out of here. So I've just disconnected these drain lines here and pull these up out and see how long they are. So give them a good tug. Holy. So there we go, that's probably a good meter long, so make sure that you don't forget about those. Next time you poke them down there, rip those bad boys out there too. They're a little bit scummy looking on the inside, but that's kind of what you would expect for something that's 30 years old. So that. Same thing for the other side. And that's done. So on these front ones here, was just this little 2-inch section of hose here. I pulled it out and you can actually see there, mine was blocked on the driver's side, so care about preventative maintenance stuff. If you ever have your hood lining down, you should probably have a look at cleaning those out while you're in there. But we'll see further down the track about removing these out of there, because that's a bit of a hard pipe there, but it feels flexy, so maybe that goes down to some flexi hose down there, I'd imagine, but we'll cross that bridge a bit later. So now let's start ripping out these bolts. So I've ripped out 6 of the 8 bolts here that hold it down. So I've got 2 left holding it in. I'm just going to go unlock this door so I can get ready to spin it out there since I'm by myself. Just a quick mention, make sure you remember to unplug all the sunroof stuff out the front before you actually go to lift this thing out, because otherwise you're going to have a bad time. Anyway, let's get this thing out of here. Just for reference, underneath all of that motor stuff up here, there is more bolts, and you can see that we've got some more nuts up here as well. It's like Toyota didn't want these things falling out. Who would have guessed? Let's get them out of here too. Sweet, so that's him. I just did a bit of balancing on my head. It wasn't too heavy that I couldn't support it, but there is a fair bit of a chunk of weight in this thing. But we'll keep pulling out all the other little bits and we'll weigh it all at the end. And as easy as that, the sunroof's gone. So let's have a look on the inside and see what the roof looks like from there. Right, so now this is our view from the inside of the car. So essentially all I did was go through and remove all the different mounting tabs that were bolted to the car there to help retain the sunroof itself. And there was a whole bunch of clips and loom that wrapped up around through here. Same deal up here, and these little holes, there they are. That used to hold a loom that went down there, so all that stuff's been pulled out, and yeah, we're left with this. My only recommendation is you're left with these studs hanging through the roof here. If I can get my fingers out of the way. That there is connected to the skin of the roof, and I don't know if you can see that there. There's a little bit of vibration. You can see that move. So I'm going to throw a nut back on them just to help retain it a little bit to try and stop that vibration. Yeah, you don't want that giving any grief, giving you cracks and stuff from the roof, getting a bit of a wobble and stuff to it. So it's worth that little bit of insurance just to throw a couple of nuts back on it. But that essentially just leaves us with this big open hole here. So it looks like we've got like a double skinned bent edge down here. I've seen some people cut that off. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do about that yet, whether I just leave that there or I trim it back and put a bit of sheet metal over the top and rivet it down. I'll have a think about that in a second, figure that one out. But for now, let's go weigh all of this stuff that I pulled out, the roof lining and the sunroof itself, and see what we're left with. Alright, so now's the part of the video you've all been waiting for. How much does this stuff actually weigh? Now, I've gone off the camera and measured all this stuff because it was a bit hard on my own to try and film and balance all the stuff on the scales and stuff, but this is what I've come up with. So I zeroed out for the weight of this bucket, but this is all the superfluous stuff that I got. So it's the visors, the light, the clips, the nuts, the bolts, the loom, the drain tube, all that stuff. Came to a total of 3.5 kilos on its own. The roof lining itself was 2 kilos and the sunroof was 14 kilos. So that gives us a collective weight of 19.5 kilos that was in the roof. So that's a substantial amount to have above your head. If you care purely about weight reduction and performance, it's going to make a significant difference pulling essentially 20 kilos from above your head. It's going to help your center of gravity get lower and all the rest of it. So I personally think, yes, it's worth it, as long as you can come up with a creative way to fill that hole in the roof. I've seen a few people tackle this in different ways. The most common way I've seen is people basically get a bit of like 3mm thick aluminium sheet, cut it to the right size, seal that down and pop rivet it on. That's cool if that's the look that you're going for. It's a little bit agricultural personally, I think. I don't like the look of just like sheet metal stuff riveted onto a car that essentially has a stock body everywhere else. So I'm going to try and think about this off of camera and try and come up with a more creative way to make something that kind of recesses into the original spot that the sunroof was. So I kind of have a bit more of a aesthetically pleasing look. But that'll be a topic for another video. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you've enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Realistically, it just helps me out with motivation to keep making these things. The more that you engage, the more you enjoy it, I get a kick out of that, and I'll keep making more for you. So on that note, we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.